And then this guy says, there's a place where we can go and sleep. And I was like, so how is this arrangement? He says, no, you will have your own bed. So we went to this place. So somewhere in the middle of the night, he just came and attacked me.
Oh, no.
And he raped me. In fact, he strangled me. I had marks here for a long time. Like I fought. The unfortunate thing is that I got pregnant.
From that incident?
From that attack.
A young girl finished college and had her whole life ahead of her. But one night, one fateful night, she meets a man who had other plans for her life. And from this night, she conceived. But then 3 years later, this guy shows up wishing to co-parent. What this young girl did not know at that point is that she would never see her child again. Not for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. As a parent, what would you do? Well, and what did this young girl do? We're here to hear the story of Dr. Karambu Ringera and what she did in that circumstance and what her life turned out to be, and that of a child. So thank you so much, Dr. Karambu, for agreeing to do this interview with us. And you do have a lovely, lovely place here.
Thank you so much.
Please tell us a little about yourself and where do you come from?
My name is Dr. Karambu Ringera. I come from Meru County.
Yeah.
And I come from a place known as Gakurine. That is where my parents moved to. But the original place of my dad is a place called Chugo.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that is where now our original home is.
Mm-hmm.
And then he bought a piece of land up Gakurine near Kemu. And so that is where I was raised.
How would you describe your childhood? How was it?
I would describe my childhood as being very happy.
Wow.
I had amazing parents and I never lacked anything.
Talk to us about your education and what did you pursue in college maybe? And
literature in English and geography as my subjects, and that is what I taught when I graduated from Kenyatta University.
We're here today because of a story that happened after college and how that experience morphed you and changed you to who you are today and what you're doing right now. Could you take us to that time?
That time?
Yes.
So I was very happy to have finished college.
Yes.
You can imagine, you know, like you finished college and now you're going to become a teacher and things like that. So my older sister was teaching in a town about 2 hours from Meru, where I grew up. So after college, after clearing with my studies and everything, I hadn't graduated yet.
Yeah.
I was waiting to graduate. This weekend, this girl tells me I accompany her. She wants to go out. Her boyfriend is taking her out. So I took her very happily. And so when we went, this guy came with his friend. And so we went to just a hotel, a public place, where we had dinner and then after that we just started talking and things like that. So somewhere in the middle of this, and I think we went somewhere in the barracks because this guy's friend was working in the military. Yeah. So I think we went to one of their barrack places where you can have food and they had drinks and things like that. So somewhere during the evening, my friend and her boyfriend vanished. And now I was left with this person. And we sat there and we sat there and we sat there and it was like 2 a.m. And you know, now I know. Now I know. And that is why I share this story, is so that young girls know when you're taking your friend to go out with her boyfriend, most likely that guy will come with a friend.
And you're not told about that. And
you're not told about, you didn't know about it. And now you're here, you just sit, you know. But the thing that I hadn't prepared for was to have my own money so that if I needed to go back home, I could get a cab and go back home. And so this was at night. This is a place that I'm not familiar with. It is 2 a.m. and I don't know whether we are going to sit here until morning. And then this guy says, there's a place where we can go and sleep. And I was like, so how is this arrangement? He says, no, you will have your own bed. So we went to this place. I have no idea where it is. Even today, I can't tell you where it is. So we went, and yeah, indeed, I had my own space. But then he was in the same room. So somewhere in the middle of the night, he just came and attacked me.
Oh, no.
And he raped me. So that is called date rape. There was no word like that those days. So in fact, he strangled me. I had marks here for a long time. Like I fought. And so he overcame me and he raped me. The unfortunate thing is that I got pregnant.
From that incident?
From that attack. And I didn't know, of course. So you don't even know what to think or what to do. So in the morning, you just wake up and you figure out where you are, and then you find your way home. That night, there was someone who ran into this room, and she just came and landed on the bed where I was sleeping. There was a man chasing her.
So it was like it's not a secluded incident to find people attacking.
This is a military place. So maybe she was also in my shoes.
Yeah.
At least she ran, because she came and now landed where I was, and she lay still. So I don't know whether that person passed by and no one talked. So this was not a safe place, is what I'm saying. So anyway, the next day I found my way back home.
Did you ever tell anyone, even your friend?
No, and now who do you tell? First of all, the question that girls are asked where were you going? That's a silly question to ask someone who comes and tells you you've been raped.
Yeah.
Or these parents who, when like a kid goes and says, my father has sexually molested me, you beat the child. Instead of dealing with the problem. You re-traumatize the kid.
Yeah.
Because first of anyway, so I didn't tell anyone. Couldn't think of telling anyone. Now until I realized I was pregnant.
How did you find out?
My menses didn't come.
And you automatically assumed this is why?
But that was the only that was the only sex I had with anybody. You know. So yeah, so it I knew it was. So I mean, like, there was no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, so so we had just finished our exams.
Yeah.
I went home. The graduation came. I realized I was pregnant. I talked to some friends, and I wanted to do an abortion because I would be the first one in the family to bring a kid at home. My parents were Christians, we were brought up Christians, and all that stuff. So, and that is not the plan I had for my life. So, we worked with my friends, and I had to look for the money. I don't even remember how much it was those days. And then when I went to this doctor's place, the thing that I remember was I reached the door and I couldn't get in. Like, my feet refused to walk. Now I stood there thinking, this decision that you're making is going to turn around your life. And I even don't have a clue the extent to which this turning around is going to be made. So I say it is the hardest turnaround I've ever made in my life. In that turnaround, I am thinking, You're going to have to figure out where you're going to live because you can't go home pregnant.
Sure.
You have to figure out how you're going to take care of yourself. You have to figure out what you're going to do with this baby. I mean, there were that turnaround. It is like seconds, but it was like a whole year of all the things that were coming through my mind, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I couldn't go in. I can't even tell you how I walked back to wherever I was going. But at least I didn't enter that door.
Yeah.
So what I did is that I went and wrote a very long letter to my parents. And I told them, I remember just saying, I'm sorry, I've let you down. I didn't even tell them, even in the letter, what happened.
What happened?
I didn't tell them. Because in my head, the blame story from the society is just what was like, what's the use? So now the thing was, I went and graduated. I graduated when I was like 3 months pregnant.
Okay.
Fortunately, we were getting posted immediately after we finished school. So I was posted for my teaching. And then that was a relief because now I knew at least I had a job and I could take care of the kid. And then unfortunately I was posted in a high school for girls. Now I am unmarried and I'm pregnant.
You're pregnant.
One of my high school teachers was the deputy principal in that school. I was posted and she was a Christian and she knew I was a Christian when I was in high school. So later on I heard that she was trying to get me removed from that school because I wasn't a good example for the kids and this. And I understand their stand. But now I know there's just more than, looking at a girl and thinking that she's pregnant and things like that. So I had already come to terms with my status, but I never went home during the whole of that time. I never went home. No one came to look for me either, So I wrote him and told him I'm pregnant, but I don't want to get married to you, and I just want you to know, just in case this kid, when he grows one day, he wants to know his father, but I don't want anything to do with you. From the beginning, I knew I wasn't interested in having anything with a guy who behaves like that.
Yeah.
When my son was 3 years old, this guy shows up. I was in Moranga somewhere in the middle of nowhere teaching, and this guy shows up with his friend. And he comes and asks me what are my plans, and I say my plans are to go to school. Nothing else.
Yeah.
So my suspicion is that he wanted to see whether I was ready to get married. And I said, I'm not ready to get married. I am not ready to get married, and not to him anyway. And at that point, I knew what I wanted to do was to go on with my education and take care of myself and this child.
Yeah.
So he left. But then after he left, I think he went and talked with his father. And then again, he came and said that, would I consider giving him the child to raise? And then I said, no, I can't give you the kid. I think the best thing would be if we shared raising him. So, and I said, it's not going to be between you and I. Your parents have to be there and my parents have to be there. We agree on how this is going to happen. So when we met, they were actually suggesting that they give us money, like a payment, so that we give them the kid. And then I said, we are not selling this kid. I just understand that he needs to have a father figure in his life because he's a boy.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm unable to raise him. I just need for him to know you. So I think when they realized we wouldn't take the money, because later on I realized that probably they wanted us to take the money and then they'll be like, we paid for him, so you keep off. Yeah. So they said it's okay, and then we agreed that one holiday you'd be with me, the next one you'd go to them, alternating like that. So the first holiday they took him, I was able to go and see him, and he escorted me with this guy's uncle, but this guy had already gotten married. He had a young wife. So I understood the year before when he came, he was probably preparing to settle down, and in their tradition, when you're thinking of settling down, if you have a child outside, you must bring them home first. But I didn't know that then. So so the first time he went, he stayed with them, and I went to see him. He was okay. But that was at the end of the year. At the beginning of the following year, they had moved him to a different place. So the next time I went to ask for him so that he could now come and be with me during the April holidays, because they had him during the December holidays. I couldn't reach his father on phone. His uncle was like, I don't know, you have to talk to his father. His grandfather wouldn't take my phone calls. So that was not the beginning of this nightmare.
Oh my.
So they had taken him. Later on, I realized that they had taken him to their upcountry home. The upcountry home is somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Kakamega. So I tried to call, I tried everything, I couldn't get him. So 2 years later, a friend of mine told me, hey, Karambu, we need to go and look for Tush. We used to call him Tush. His Meru name was Leo Mutuma. When they took him, they changed his name. Yeah, they changed his name. So, so my friend says, let's go look for him. I said, Guy, do you know how it's like coming to Meru County and then figuring out where you're going to find someone? So she says, no, I have a friend in Kisumu. We will ask him to drive us to Kakamega, because it's about, is it an hour or something like that? So I told him, okay, I told her, let's go. So we went. And from Kisumu, this Sunday morning, we drive to Kakamega. You will not believe this, that where we stopped for our driver to go and find out whether someone here knows this home.
Yeah.
That was this person's bar, my son's grandfather's bar. This guy found a man seated, this is Sunday morning, late morning, so there aren't many people in a public place like that. But there's a man seated at a table, and he says to our friend, the driver, oh, he was seated here just a few minutes ago. He's the one I was talking to, but he just stepped out.
Wow.
If we had found the grandfather there, we would never have found the home. So this man gives this guy the directions to this place. It was 10 miles from there. It was 10 miles and not just a straight line. So we found our way into this place. The grandmother was at home. She just sees me and she's like, who showed you this place? So in their family, they used to call me that woman. Do you know that woman? So,
was your son there with them?
Yeah, he was there, but I think when she saw me, she went and hid him. And so I was so emotional. You can imagine all those years. I was just crying, and I asked her, you're a woman like me. If someone comes and takes your child and hides them, what would you feel?
What would you do? Yeah.
She didn't even answer. She just went and brought him out.
Wow.
Yeah.
How is your son reacting towards you? Did he remember you after all these years?
I don't even I don't remember, but I think I asked him, do you remember me? And he said yes.
Wow.
And then I tried to speak to him in Kimeru.
But because he knew Kimeru before he left.
Yeah, before. And now he's speaking this language, this new language. So, but he didn't understand what I was telling him. Yeah. So we sat there with the grandmother. She was very nervous now. But fortunately, the grandfather didn't come while we were there. So I talked to the grandmother. I told her the story, and I told her, I don't think it is fair for this to happen. And she told me, I don't nilileta mtoto tu.
Hakuambiwa what circumstances led to this.
So nikamwelezea, I explained to her, and then that was it. We had to leave. So now my son doesn't understand Kimeru, so I can't tell him, hide, we go with you. So I just left him there. But now because I had learnt the place, I told myself I'll come back.
At this point, had you noticed that they had changed his name as well? Did he respond to the name that you raised him by?
I don't even remember. I just called him the name that I used to call him.
And he responded?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then we left, and I knew I was going to come back. So a few weeks later, I came. This was it during the holidays? It wasn't during the holidays, because I remember a few weeks later, I came back in a hired car, and I went to school now, directly to the school, because now I had known at home there's no way. So because of showing up a few weeks ago, they had told the school, if someone like this comes to ask about this kid, just bring him home. So I didn't realize that. So when I went to the school, I told them I had come to see so-and-so.
Yeah.
They said, go and come after 30 minutes. So when I came back after 30 minutes, they said, for sure the kid is not in school. So go to their home.
Yeah.
So they had already taken the kid back home within that time. I didn't realize, you know. So then I went home, and they had hidden the child, and the grandmother was there again, and I talked to her again. And now, because now they had known, when I left, they moved the kid now back to Nairobi. The father is in the military. He lives in one of the barracks. Even I took my mom to come and see whether this guy would talk to him, and he wouldn't pick our phones. And you can't, they were living in the barracks, so you can't get in there unless you're cleared by the person you're going to see. So that is when I went to court. I decided now I was going to go to court. So I went to court, and I won the case. I had a letter. Unfortunately, the stepmother was teaching in the primary school where my kid was going, and she had those instructions. And so she went and told the principal of the school lies about me. I don't know what she told her, but I imagine that probably she told her things like a husband snatcher or things like that. So the headmistress wouldn't hear me. I told her I have a court order. She wouldn't even look at it. So I went back to the lawyer, and the lawyer told me, I don't like cases that don't end. Can you imagine? So now you're left by yourself. Yeah, I had won the case. I have the documents, and I still can't get access to him, you know. I sat down and I said, by that time, I think my son was around finishing primary school. So I decided I'm going to stop looking for him, so that there were 2 years before he did his standard 8 exam, so that they don't say that I'm the reason why he failed his exams. So I rested. I said, he has seen me. He knows you. He knows I've looked for him. Yeah. When he grows up, you look for me. So I rested the case until now. I needed to go to South Africa for my master's degree. I always kept track of where he is and things like that. Yeah. Even in his school, one day one teacher came, and I was the best girl in her wedding. She came and told me there's a kid in my class who looks like Tush. I was like, what do you mean? Wow. It was him. She when she joined the school, she was teaching. Yes. And that was soon after he had come from the village. And she told me he doesn't leave the class. You know, now he's a kid who has come now to a different wherever. So I told her, just be friends to him and talk to him and see what he needs. They used to just pack bread for his lunch. So she told me he's not having a good meal. So I told her, then you have to figure out what to do.
Yeah. Because
the father is the one who drops him to school to get him to register the kid for meals in school. So that is what she did. Until the wife realized that I know someone in the school. She hit the roof. They didn't move my son from the school, but they moved the teacher. That's how powerful the family was. She was transferred. So anyway, I had that in information. Now he's having lunch and all that kind of stuff. Years later, I hear he's going to a high school in Machakos. And so I go there. And I tell him, are you okay? He says, yes, he's okay. Would you like to come and live with me? He says he's comfortable where he is. I said, I just came to see you because I am going to be away for at least 2 years. If you have any issue, I want you to know you can come to Meru. When he was small, we used to go to my father's place, to his grandfather's place. So he says he's okay. He said he's okay. And me, I went to South Africa and did my studies, and then went to the States to start my PhD. And then somewhere in between, the father passed on. But still, the stepmother refused to let go the child. So I would ask the uncle, so what is this about?
Yeah.
So we thought it had something to do with land. So I left it at that. And then when he finished high school, I came back one summer. And a friend of mine who used to know my son when he was young told me, how is Drew? Asked me how Drew is. I said, I don't know. He went to live with his father. And then she says, let's go and see him. I say, I don't know where he lives and I don't have a car.
Yeah.
She says, I have a car, I can take you.
You have good friends.
So I remember where the uncle used to live. So we drove there. So the uncle fortunately is there. It's on a Tuesday. And he tells us that in 2 days' time, he's going back home because there's a burial. My son finished high school like the previous year, but he's still at home. So I gave him my number and I said, you give this number to, by now he was Andrew, and tell him he can call me if he wants. So Sunday, very early in the morning, 6 a.m., I get a call and I answer and he says, hello, it's your son.
Oh.
And I'm like,
how did that make you feel?
I was like, you know I'm your mother. I didn't say that, but in myself I was like, all that bullshit you gave me, running away from me, you know I'm your mother. That's the thing that is going inside my head. But I didn't go there.
You all over the country.
Yeah. So I didn't say that, but I was like, that's how I was feeling. So we talked. I said, how are you? I told him I am here for the next, I think I had probably another 3 weeks before I went back to the States. Would you like us to meet? Then he said yes. And we agreed on a date that he's going to come to Nairobi the following week. And when we met, he told me that a day or two before he got my number, he had dreamt about me. So it means that it's something that he was thinking about
Constantly, yeah.
So I asked him, when we met, we met somewhere in town, in Nairobi,
yeah.
And I couldn't talk. I was crying and crying. I was just so emotional. But
it had been how many years?
Now this was...
From the time he left to now when he's reuniting with you?
Probably 15 or 16. Yeah. So you can imagine all those emotions now.
Yeah.
So, I told him, I'm so emotional, we can't talk a lot, but let's meet the following week. Now the following week I had only 1 more week to go. So that time I was better. We talked, he told me what he wants to do. And then I told him, he told me I'd been at home all this time, being told you go to school, but nothing had happened yet.
Yeah.
So I told him, whatever I chose to do, I told him I can pay for it. So he started doing it. And, but he's a Christian. My son is born again, and he said, I can't continue lying to mom because up to that time, she didn't know I was the one who was paying for his schooling. And when he told her, she just hit the roof and chased him from their home. So he went to stay with his uncle. And that is how that year in December, now I was able to bring him for my mother to see him 19 years later. They hadn't seen him for 19 years. So we had a very beautiful Christmas, that Christmas.
And the reunion.
The reunion. It was like, it was, yeah. So, so she chases him. He's living with his uncle. And now we have been able to have contact with him.
Yeah.
So he started going to the university, coming from his uncle's place. But while he was doing that, he came across a university fair. And because he realized that the course he was doing at the university was not going to give him the credit that he needed to do aeronautical engineering, that is the program, the course he wanted to do. So when he went for this university fair in Westlands, he found a school in Malaysia that was offering a 2-year program, after which you went either to Australia, to US, or to Europe for another 2 years to get your degree in aeronautical engineering. So we looked for someone to support him, and so he was able to go to Malaysia.
Wow.
When he was going to Malaysia, his stepmother was at the airport to see him off. And she had chased him from the home. Yeah. But now that probably was looking like... So when he finished his 2 years in Malaysia, he had to come back to Kenya to get his visa to go to continue his studies in the USA. He chose to go to the US. So now because they had escorted him, see, when he came back, he had to go back home. Then it took time for his visa to come through. And within that waiting, I think they thought she is going nowhere. She chased him again. And all this time, I've never sat with my son to talk about his stepmother, to explain to him that we didn't know each other. I met her when I went to pick him for the first time. And the second time when I was grading in Nairobi, she came to look for me. So she wasn't someone I knew. She also didn't know anything about me. Whatever stories she fed him are the stories that she got from other people or from her own head. Because of course I know she was bitter that she had to raise someone else's kid, but she never came to ask me the story. Yeah. And of course I'm sure her husband never told her the story.
Yeah.
So we never talked, except that time she came to look for me, and I told her, I'm not interested in your husband. If you agree, we agree. You can be bringing him. All I want to do is to see my son. So now they've chased her away for the second time. By this time, the dad died couple of years back. So when now he came, he was sent away the second time, he was preparing to go to the States. And actually after he left, his visa came through. So he was able to go to the States. And I was telling myself, he needs to find for himself what kind of person this person is. I'm not the one who is going to tell him.
Yeah.
So he himself came and told me that when he came to the city, the kind of conversation that they had had. And I said, that is all I wanted you to understand, the kind of person that your stepmother is, and I'm not the one who is going to tell you this. So after that, then now he understood, and he went to the States and he started his studies. And then from there on, when he came home for holidays, he'd come home to Meru. He kept in touch with his stepbrother and sister though, which is okay.
Yeah.
Those are his sisters, and I mean, those are his siblings. Yeah. He was a hardworking kid and he was able to graduate. He also had taken a loan to help him or to help us. And then he got a job in the States, so he started paying his part of the loan really and things like that.
Would you say that all these things that you've gone through and the experiences you've underwent inspired you to starting a children's home and try and maybe fill a gap that was missing?
You know, at that time, I wasn't thinking like that.
Yeah.
I knew that experience had changed who I am as a woman and as a mother. And from the beginning, I didn't trust men because I had seen how women were treated in this patriarchal society. And I had seen the experiences of other girls and things with betrayal and stuff like that. And so, first of all, I wasn't in a hurry to get married. And when I eventually did, the marriage didn't last for very long, but it was because of infidelity on the part of the guy I was married to. But that is, you know, when you believe things, they come true in your life. So, and then after I separated from the person I was married to, I went to the States and did my studies. It was while I was in the States, one summer I came back home and I met a group of women meeting at my mother's house. And they were in a group of about 25 people, and 7 of them, between January and June of 2002, had lost their husbands. And they were saying they don't know what the cause is. And HIV and AIDS, of course, had hit us. So I said, I think it is good to go and find out what your husbands died from, so that if it is this disease, you know how to take care of yourself so that your children don't go to the streets. So they all went and got the documentations and they talked to the doctor or whoever, and they found that their husbands died from HIV and all the 7 women were positive.
Oh no.
One of them was very ill. She had a little baby and she was very sick, and she was told, those days they used to be told not to breastfeed a child. So she was like, I can't get out of this bed and you're telling me not to breastfeed this child?
What am I doing?
What am I supposed to do? So that group then, we talked and we agreed they need to support this person. My mom started taking a bottle of milk every day. The women started talking with her, visiting her. So the exclusion that had started, discrimination, the villagers started seeing people talk to her, hug her, shake her hand. Those were the days that you never even touch someone who has HIV. So that's how we started. Then that was the first group. So they said they asked me to help them, and I was like, I'm a student. I really don't know how to help you. I can hardly help myself. But let me go and pray. I remember saying, let me go and pray and see what I get.
Yeah.
So when I was on my flight back to the States, I can make Kenyan food and invite people to come and hear how HIV is affecting my community, because everybody was talking about HIV then. And so in November of 2002, I did the first Kenya cultural event.
Wow.
I had carried Kenyan spices.
Yeah.
So I made chicken and beef with Kenyan spices. I made chapati. I made a little ugali. I made kale with cabbage. Just the way we make food here in Kenya. I looked for an African drumming group. There they don't know the difference. That was Malawian.
But it was African.
Yeah. And we had a phenomenal evening. But I charged at the gate, at the door, to come in. Students had a certain
rate,
whatever, and some of my teachers even came. So that's how I started the Kenya Cultural Night events, which I did every year for the next 4 years while I was at Denver. The first event raised $400, which at that time was 28,000 Kenya shillings. In January 2003, that is when we took the first 7 kids, the kids of those 7 women, to primary school. After 2 years, the women came back and said, thank you for helping our kids. How can you help us?
Wow.
I said, I don't know how to help people. Just tell me how you want to help yourself. Because there's this mindset, dependency mindset in people. We are always looking for a savior out there. And from the very beginning, I knew the women needed to know that they have what it takes within themselves to save themselves. So I said, I don't know how to help people. How do you want to help yourself? It took them half a year to figure that they can make jewelry. That's how we started making these things. This is made by one of my kids. This is a gift she gave me when I came back. Love. Yeah. And then we started, every time I did my annual event, I would, because in the summer, June, July, August, I would come home. Then I started selling the jewelry, would bring the money back to the women, and the kids are still going to school.
Yes.
So what I hadn't calculated is that when people heard that Karambu is taking kids to school, they don't even remember that I'm a student. They think I'm in America, where money just falls from the trees, right?
Does your son know that his dad took you through all this pain? Does he know what happened for him to be born?
No, I've not shared with him, except the letter I told you I wrote to him, and I explained to him that there was an agreement that I totally didn't abandon him.
Yeah.
But still, I haven't been able to tell him the whole story. Yeah.
How is your relationship with your son right now?
In my view, very good. Yeah, we are very close.
Are you now worried that he may change his mind about his dad when he finds out through this interview what happened?
You know,
those years back. Yeah.
His relationship with his father was a certain way.
Yes.
And actually, I think in that home, his father is the one who really protected him. And his father loved him, which I think added pili-pili to the stepmother, because probably she didn't want this kid to be loved also.
Yeah.
So his relationship with his father is what it is. Me, this is my story.
Yes.
My story in relationship in relation to what their father did to me. But this has nothing to do with my son's relationship with his father. So that's where I create the boundary.
Why are you sharing this story with us here today?
Many reasons. I have thought about why I would like to go public with this story.
Yeah.
We have kids who are going to college and getting pregnant because they went to a party, they took juice, not even alcohol, juice that was laced with something, that dragged them. They don't know what happened to them. They just woke up and found themselves either outside or in an unfamiliar place, raped. And I have met kids who've gotten kids that way. You are just fresh in college.
Yeah.
You can't trust anyone.
You can't, yeah.
In these forums, we've heard of people who were molested as children. They were molested by cousins. They were molested by friends of their brothers. They were raped by uncles. They were raped by stepfathers. So I am here to talk to that woman whose husband probably died and remarried, and she has a girl or a boy, because now both boys and girls are in trouble.
Yeah.
Men are raping both boys and girls. To say it's okay, you love your husband, you trust them and what have you, but be watchful. The thing that I used to carry was, there's something wrong with me, I am dirty, I am a bad person, and it was my fault. Now I know it wasn't my fault. At all, it wasn't my fault. Even if other people's stories say whatever they want to say, that's their story.
True.
But I had to come to a point of dropping other people's stories and saying, Karambu, what's your story?
For someone who's watching your story right now and thinking, oh my, you went through so much pain and challenges basically that were supposed to destroy you, but instead you use them to bring about something so beautiful that impacts the society. And they probably want to come in and help support some of the projects that you do with these children. How can they get in touch with you, and how can they help, bring about a big change?
I need big help. I need a lot of help in terms of, you see, we started the children's home in 2009, August. That's when I took the first 10 kids. And most of the kids, if you take a bell curve, most of the kids for the first 12 years have been in this curve, because we took some kids as young as 1 year. And so most of our kids were in primary school. Now I have about 30 kids in high school, 23 in colleges, and the rest in primary school. So my curve has moved to this side. So my bills have gone, they keep whatevering. So if someone is willing to support a kid, if someone is willing to bring food, if someone is willing to support in any way that they can, that is welcome.
How can they reach you?
I have a phone number.
You can share it.
Oh, I share it?
Yeah, the one that they can, call and get you directly.
Yeah, so you can call me on 0795 444 556. 0795 444 556. Or you can reach me on email, RINGERAMBU. That is ringerambu @gmail.com. You can go to our website, International Peace Initiatives, or www.ipeacei.org to see what we do. We're also on Facebook. You can see International Peace Initiatives there. You can see Kithoka Amani Children's Home there, and you can reach me. Today we have a birthday party at the children's home. Some people choose to come and celebrate their birthdays with our children. You can come with your family. So we have the children's home, and we have a place we call 3G Eco Retreat Center, and we host events. If you want to do a workshop, if you want to do a retreat, if you want to come and do a wedding, and we have spaces for guests. We are an Airbnb also. And that is one way we raise funds for the sustainability of the children's home. So those are the ways that someone can support us.
Perfect. And you're doing such an amazing job impacting and changing people's lives. I have seen you celebrate weddings, graduations, birthday parties, and all these milestones of the children that you support that wouldn't have been achieved were it not for you coming into their lives and transforming them for the better. So I appreciate you. And
let me tell you something.
Yeah.
This year, this
2023.
Yeah, 2023. December, when was it graduating? The first week of December. We graduated our 60th
child.
Bachelor's degree.
Wow.
Bachelor's degree.
That came in through your doors and came out such prosperous young
Absolutely.
people out there.
People are not their circumstances.
That is so true.
So, and even you're not your circumstances. So it doesn't matter what you're going through. Just know you're not your circumstances. And once you work that out, you see your worth. I tell my kids, you're whole, you're pure, you're complete, you're enough. Your God's enoughness is your enoughness. You know, like love yourself.
That. You are enough.
You're enough. And when a person recognizes that, no matter what circumstances are tying you, when you step into your worth, you will free yourself. We stay in circumstances that treat us as less than humans because we haven't stepped into our worth. We haven't seen ourselves through the eyes that God who created us sees us through. And once you do that, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, no one can tell you who you are, but you know who you are through the eyes of the one who created you. You're whole, you're pure, you're complete, and you're enough.
Wow. That should be our punchline, guys. You're whole, you're pure, you're complete, and enough. If there's anything you have learned through Dr. Karambu's story, is that you shouldn't let your past define your future. And are you there and you're looking for a place to celebrate your birthdays, or just stand with a child who needs someone to sponsor them through school, please reach out to Dr. Karambu here through the numbers that we shall put on our pinned comment and help them make a bigger impact that more than what she's doing right now. Thank you so much for staying with us till the end of the show. My name is Yvonne Kawira, and until next time, keep it Tuko.